There is an ancient truth that religious authorities have kept silent for over 2,000 years. Creatures that drank human blood were not merely medieval legends. They walked among us long before the birth of Christ. And the earliest records of humanity hold terrifying secrets about their true nature. Today, we will dive into the depths of the oldest archives of civilization, unearthing disturbing evidence about blood-sucking entities that terrorized our ancestors. We will uncover how different cultures around the world documented encounters with these dark beings, and why this information has been systematically suppressed throughout the centuries. By the end of this video, you will discover shocking truths that will completely transform your understanding of humanity's hidden history, and you'll understand why this knowledge was deliberately kept from us for so long. Long before the rise of Christianity, humanity's earliest civilizations recorded systematic encounters with creatures that fed on blood and spirit. Ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablets, believed to date back millennia before the Christian era, speak of shadowy beings known as echimuristless dead who roamed the night, draining life from the living with each encounter. These entities were not spoken of as myths, but as real threats cataloged by priests and scribes. Babylonian chronicles reveal dozens of documented vampiric cases across the ages. These records include the names of victims, exact timings of attacks aligned with lunar phases, and ritual methods employed to neutralize the threat. Their consistency across centuries implies something far deeper than folklore, something systematically suppressed. Ancient Egyptian papyri from the time of the Old Kingdom list hundreds of vampiric incidents, offering meticulous accounts of symptoms, bodies drained of color and warmth, a violent aversion to sunlight, and a compulsive craving for red pigments and substances. These records were not poetic, they were procedural, part of temple medicine and royal court protocols. The Greeks and Romans continued this tradition of documentation. In Athens, tales of Lamius and Empusa's female entities who seduced and killed scores of young men were logged with bureaucratic precision. Roman military reports warned of Lemurus phantoms who attacked legions under cover of night, leaving only husks behind. These threats were taken so seriously that commanders developed combat tactics specifically for nocturnal defense. What the modern world dismisses as mythology, the ancients treated as war. The Catholic Church discovered this evidence during its initial expansion and recognized an existential threat to its doctrine. If vampires existed before Christ, it called into question the biblical timeline of creation and the origin of evil in the world. Documents from the Council of Nicaea reveal secret debates where bishops decided that knowledge of ancient creatures should be completely suppressed to maintain the Church's spiritual authority. The existence of pre-Christian vampires also challenged the concept of salvation exclusively through Christ. If other civilizations already had effective methods to fight supernatural evil, it diminished the need for ecclesiastical mediation. Confidential letters between early popes reveal their fear that such information could empower rival pagan religions, which already had established traditions of vampire combat. The Church opted for a systematic disinformation campaign, rewriting history to position itself as the sole source of protection against the forces of darkness. Deep within the labyrinthine archives of the Vatican lies a section so secretive, so forbidden, that it is known only to the highest initiates. This chamber, whispered about as Hereticus Maximus, contains thousands of ancient manuscripts chronicling the existence of vampiric beings long before the rise of Christianity. Throughout all of recorded history, fewer than a dozen individuals have ever been granted full access to its contents. Among them were a trio of popes, each of whom met unexplained and untimely deaths shortly after consulting the forbidden texts. Within these locked vaults are full translations of tablets from Sumeria, maps marking locations believed to be centers of vampiric activity, alchemical instructions for crafting ancient repellents, and shockingly, diplomatic contracts between human monarchs and vampiric houses. These documents shatter the sanitized version of history taught to the masses, revealing that humans once negotiated rather than fought with creatures of the night. But the most chilling artifact hidden in these depths is the Codex Sanguinarius, a leather-bound tome said to span hundreds of pages, written during the late Roman era. This book details the identification, containment, and extermination of vampiric entities, using knowledge gathered from more than a score of civilizations. The Codex was deemed so hazardous that the Church publicly denied its existence for over a millennium and a half. Yet blurred photographs, smuggled at great risk, show detailed anatomical diagrams of vampires, from their altered internal organs to their reproductive structures and intricate societal hierarchies. Why does the Church hide this? Because the release of these truths would not only validate thousands of folk legends, it would expose the greatest betrayal of all, that the guardians of spiritual salvation knowingly withheld life-saving knowledge from mankind. What else have they locked away in the darkness? Around 3,000 years before Christ, multiple civilizations simultaneously coordinated the largest vampire extermination in human history. Converging records from 6 different cultures, Sumerian, Egyptian, Hindu, Chinese, Mayan, and Norse, document a global campaign against the ancestral blood drinkers. This operation involved thousands of specially trained warriors, weapons forged with sacred metals, and rituals synchronized during a total solar eclipse that lasted 7 minutes. Modern archaeological excavations have uncovered physical evidence of this massacre. Mass graves containing thousands of skeletons with stakes through their hearts, sealed underground chambers with protective symbols carved into the walls, and ash deposits that forensic analysis confirmed contained anomalous human DNA. The event was so traumatic, it gave rise to oral traditions in isolated cultures all over the planet. Babylonian texts reveal that the massacre reduced the global vampire population from approximately 50,000 to fewer than 500 individuals, forcing the survivors into hiding for millennia. Between the early 4th and late 4th centuries of the Common Era, the Church carried out the last stage of its calculated campaign to obliterate all trace of vampiric history. After embracing Christianity, Emperor Constantine issued a series of imperial edicts mandating the destruction of pagan libraries, many of which housed text detailing ancestral vampires. In cities like Alexandria, Antioch, and Rome, flames consumed hundreds of thousands of irreplaceable manuscripts. While ancient wisdom turned to ash, Christian scribes worked in silence, altering surviving documents by replacing references to vampires with vague mentions of demons, or excising such passages altogether. The darkest of these efforts bore the codename Project Silence. This clandestine operation aimed to eliminate every individual who possessed first-hand knowledge of vampire lore. Decrypted letters exchanged among bishops revealed chilling lists of heretical targets, a group that included scholars, temple priests, decorated warriors, and even early Christians who clung to forbidden truths. Thousands were executed in secret, their voices erased from history. The Church cloaked this bloodshed as a defense of the faith, yet internal documents reveal the true motive: preserving a monopoly on supernatural knowledge to secure political dominance over a vulnerable and frightened world. The unraveling of this ancient deception began by chance in the late 1940s, when workers renovating a medieval church in southern France stumbled upon a sealed underground chamber. Inside were scrolls and codices untouched by time texts that had somehow evaded the fires of religious purification. While the Church moved quickly to confiscate the find, a courageous archaeologist had already photographed several of the pages, ensuring that the truth would not vanish once more. In the decades that followed, emerging technologies allowed researchers to recover overwritten texts on damaged scrolls, using spectral imaging, exposing erased references to vampiric figures. Geneticists, analyzing unearthed remains, found anomalies in DNA sequences that matched descriptions preserved in suppressed manuscripts. The most explosive development came when anonymous hackers breached parts of the Vatican's digitized archives, releasing fragments of classified documents that confirmed a conspiracy reaching back thousands of years. Now, a loose network of independent historians, scientists, and occult investigators works in secret to reconstruct our hidden past. Their findings suggest something terrifying. Vampires were not mythical. They were architects of civilization, moving unseen among kings, priests, and prophets. If such a truth was buried for so many generations, what other lies still linger beneath the surface of accepted history? You've just unearthed secrets that claimed countless lives through the ages. Every phrase whispered here once branded its speaker a heretic marked for death by unseen hands. Now you carry this burden, the horrifying knowledge that our world was built on shadows, and that ancient forces may still shape it from behind the veil. Truth demands a price. In the past half-decade alone, 3 researchers delving into these same mysteries died under inexplicable circumstances. Librarians who tried to safeguard these records vanished without a trace. If you've listened this far, your innocence is lost. What once protected, ignorantius, been stripped away. If you had the courage to confront these revelations, leave a like, but beware before sharing this video. Not everyone can survive the weight of forbidden truths. Some would rather remain blind, comforted by illusion. Subscribe if you must, but understand this. Each step deeper uncovers truths others have killed to suppress. In the comments below, whisper your theories. Where might these ancient beings be hiding today? Could they still walk among us, unseen but ever present? If they endured for thousands of years in silence, why would they stop now? The night no longer offers peace. The darkness watches. The truth doesn't free, it marks you. And now, you too have been marked.